on. So we get a different view of the news, and the point of having global voices is because news media in the West is highly centered towards the news about the West. So information about sub-Saharan Africa does not quite filter into regular news coverage. And those are all the countries. So we have from Afghanistan all the way through to Zimbabwe, with lots of involvement. We have lots of authors from China. I'm originally from Kenya, and I was in Kenya in January of this year when there was post-election violence. And the Global Voices community was very instrumental in getting the words of the bloggers at the time who were writing about what was happening into a wider dissemination, and that kind of happened pretty rapidly, and people were able to get context and a more nuanced view of the news, because if you were watching certain outlets such as CNN, you would only get probably a 5-second clip, and if you're a diaspora Kenyan in the US or wherever you are, that's not enough, because perhaps even more information about a specific area. So when we start talking about a specific area, we start thinking about geolocation and the impact of that. And that led to the project called Ushahidi, which was started by bloggers actually, who were writing and talking about the post-election violence, where people were able to input their blog posts, pictures, and later we were able to set up a phone number where they could actually... And I think something interesting that we realized through Global Voices is that as we get more people saying their stories, in earlier this year was mostly through blogs, but then as we get more people using mobiles and reporting what's going on, that information does bubble up, and there are cases where it'll end up on The Economist or other major media outlets. So you can have a bottom-up bubbling effect of getting news from the ground up all the way out to the rest of the world.
So I know in this room we don't have to talk about the importance of blogs or how blogs have transformed media, because I see other people blogging right now, and everyone knows that everyone and literally their mother now has a weblog and writing constantly, and there's this just, you know, torrent of information that's coming at us, which is good because it's democratizing the media a lot, and now anyone kind of has their own printing press, or they can do their own radio station. But it also means that we don't know how to filter the information, and that's what Global Voices really tries to do. We try to do it well so that you don't get overwhelmed, but anyone who's looked at Global Voices one day or tried to follow it over a week probably has felt very overwhelmed, because there's just so much, so many bloggers all over the world are saying. What we found that it really works well is during crisis moments, during emergencies. And that's what Juliana was saying with Kenya.
I was in town, and there was military trying to disperse a group of people who were protesting, and there was tear gas in the air. And at that time, I really didn't think much of it, so I tweeted, I was like, in downtown Nairobi, there's tear gas in the air. And that's kind of, the people on my Facebook and on my Twitter account were able to know exactly what was happening at that point in time.
It's important to filter, first of all. The second thing is that we want even more people contributing. So right now I think that there is something like 180,000 active blogs as of Technorati's last state of the blogosphere. 3.5 billion mobile subscribers in the world. That means that more than half of the entire planet has a mobile phone, or at least a SIM card that they're using in a mobile phone. So if we can get all of those people to see their device as a potential device of reporting, that they can say, news is happening right now, you know, whether it's a tsunami, whether it's a political crisis, whatever's happening, if they can just pull out their phone and become a reporter for those 10 minutes or that day, that would be amazing. The problem is, how do we convince these 3.5 billion people that their cell phones are also recording devices? So what I do for Global Voices, I'm the director of outreach. About a year and 3 months ago, we said, we're pretty happy with 180,000 people who have their blogs right now, but we're not completely content with it. We don't think that it mirrors the global population. So for example, I went to Venezuela last year and I met with the Venezuelan bloggers, and the Venezuelan blogosphere is 100% against Chavez, because they tend to be upper middle class, they're wealthy, they have a lot to lose if Chavez is in power. But there are a lot of pro-Chavez people who live in Venezuela. They just don't have the time or the money or the expertise to blog. And when you think about how we learned how to blog, it was probably because a friend of ours said, hey, check out this new cool thing. It could be online, maybe we got an email from somebody. And so if you're not involved in these social networks where it goes from one friend to the next friend to the next friend, you're not going to find out about it. And we see that those walls are really big in the citizen media landscape. So Rising Voices every 6 months is a grant competition. It gives out 5 micro grants of up to $5,000 to projects that want to do citizen media projects, specifically in underrepresented communities, which means communities that you don't see a lot online. There is one project here in South Africa, in the township of KwaMashu, right outside of Durban. There's some young people who have a little computer lab in the art center, and they're doing some really cool stuff, and they're putting their videos up, and they're blogging. So it's trying to get those communities online and participating.
Citizen journalism.
Yeah, because the case studies are really important, because when you can give people steps, here's step 1 through 100 of what you need to do to set up your moblog with video and photographs and everything. But unless you have case studies saying, here's a group of people that are doing exactly this with these types of phones, we're all sitting on the toilet when we use Twitter. And the thing is, when we use Twitter, it's very relevant to our friends, right? It just we're giving messages to a certain group of people, and that just happens to be public. So why are you reading my message while I'm sitting on the toilet is really the question, I think. And so that's why I'm focusing on the filtering, is because we need really better mechanisms to filter what's important to us. Otherwise, we're all going to feel crazy overwhelmed with all the news that's coming out. First of all, there's an introduction, which is basically everything we've talked about so far. Then we need to think of good categories to think of how you can do reporting from a cell phone. So we've thought up that you can divide it somewhat by medium. I mean, there's no such thing as medium in digital media, but you can think of text messaging, SMS. That's one feature that you can use to report from. Then there's voice. You can call a service like k7.net and record a voice message, and that can automatically get sent to a server and make a podcast out of it. So there's voice. There is email. The reason we separated email from internet is because BlackBerry phones can send emails from just about anywhere, but aren't internet capable. So with email, you can send an email to your WordPress blog, and the subject line automatically gets put into the title, and then the rest of the body of the email becomes your blog post. So that's the way that email can interact with the internet, with citizen media. Then there's the internet itself. There are a lot of mobile interfaces to blogging and photo sharing platforms. There's m.wordpress.com, m.flickr.com. So I think another thing that we really want to think about with this guide is how do we put all of these crazy acronyms that we use every day into just regular everyday language and metaphors with other forms of communication that we use in the past, whether that's calling on the phone or letter writing or stuff that makes sense to everybody. Exclamation mark, which lets Brightkite know that I'm about to post a message rather than my location. And then I typed in, hi internets with love from #mobileactive08. What happens after I do that, this text message then goes to the Brightkite server. It gets turned into a message which gets put up here on the Brightkite page, if we had an internet connection. And then from the Brightkite page, it goes to my Twitter account automatically. That's an option in Brightkite. So now all of my Twitter friends all see the exact same message that I just posted on Brightkite. And there's also a small link which posts my location. If they click on that link, then it goes to a Google Maps page of exactly where I am. First it goes to Twitter, then it also goes to my blog. So this is my blog, and right here you can see I posted this was actually with a photo that I did with my cell phone. Lots of agreements so far about what's next and what stands in the way. Posted a photo from Protea Hotel Wanderers 3 hours ago. And they can click on that, and then that goes to the map also. From Brightkite, it goes to Twitter, it goes to my blog, it also goes to Facebook. So all of my contacts on Facebook all see the exact same message. So if there's a hurricane that's about to come through here right now, and I just post something really quick via SMS and press enter, a lot of people are going to see everyone who reads my blog. That's an example of how SMS can then participate with citizen media, and also with how those messages, so if someone leaves a comment, if someone responds on Brightkite to what I say and says, let's say a hurricane's coming, and they say, oh, I know a rescue place that's just 10 miles down the road, they can then respond, and that comes right back to me via SMS, even if I'm not connected to the internet.
So then if somebody decides and said, oh, okay, let's find out there was a bridge that was supposed to be built. The report says there's supposed to be a bridge, but then if I have my mobile phone and I can take a picture of what's going on there, and when we go to the next meeting and I say, hey, I have a picture, you said you were supposed to build a bridge, it changes the argument when you have evidence.